Well, first, it's a tough act to follow the governor and then my co-panelists, but I'm continue to be privileged to be here with you. I want to tell you a little bit about my role at PwC because it's come up with everyone that I've been meeting, and Dan asked me, what does that really mean to be the head of innovation at PwC? It doesn't mean innovating sort of accounting things. That would put us all in jail. My role is really, I think I could separate it into three parts. One is a cultural transformation in the organization. So similar to what Hiro talked about yesterday, how do you get organizational innovation? How do you change the culture so that you have a sustainable ecosystem within your organization that is constantly producing ideas and executing on those? So both being innovative and entrepreneurial, coming up with the ideas and having the resources to execute on them. The second part is, we're a 100-plus-year-old company, and there are a lot of legacy systems and processes that were placed for a reason 100 years ago and over time have been improved. But, we've seen in the last decade, things are moving fast, and change needs to happen with a lot more agility. And one of my other roles is to really identify what are those barriers to innovation that exist in our processes and in our systems, and sometimes in our people, that we can reduce and hopefully remove if we're that fortunate. So that learning, that process has been very insightful for me. It's been an extremely interesting experience trying to identify these things. And then my third part of my role is to share those learnings with our clients and with the marketplace whenever we have an opportunity. So creating entrepreneurs or entrepreneurial ecosystems within an organization really requires strong leadership support, something like the governor explained, and someone I think pointed out that it was his leadership and how do you sustain that. And so you have to have leaders who believe in that and buy into it. You also have to have the belief in your workforce and empower them to think differently and not to punish them for failure and to turn failure into lessons and learn from them. So the culture needs to be very forgiving of not going down a linear path and getting from point A to point B from a straight line. And I think recognition is important in an organization. People, it's not a zero-sum game. You can recognize as many people as possible, recognizing them often and frequently and with authenticity is important to create that bond. I think Yit said something about the people of Israel feel like they need to help each other, even if it's not overt. Creating that culture within your organization that it's competitive in a very collaborative way. So those are some important things that I've learned, and I just actually wrote a blog in HBR about the corporate antibodies, and that's the second part of my job where I recognize and identify the processes and systems that prevent us from innovating. Who are they? Why do they exist? They exist to protect the entity from risk, to protect the organization from risk, and how do you get them on your side, and how do you make them understand that innovation or new ideas are not foreign bodies and attackers to the system, but they're really important to its growth. So these are some of the learnings that I've had. But I wanted to spend a few minutes talking about how private, businesses, corporations, companies can really influence ecosystems of a geography. And not to perpetuate the half-baked idea. Oh, you have more slides, thank you. Not to perpetuate the half-baked idea thing that you were talking about, Rob, but I do want to take you through a hypothesis and a live, in-progress case study that we're working on. So what can we as businesses that we've learned take to a city, a state, like the governor was talking about, or a country like Hiro is talking about? How do you take those organizational innovations or entrepreneurial cultures outside, and how do you create those partnerships? So I was talking to the governor earlier, who, like he did with all of you, he also talked with me about how business executives should really move into the public sector and help the public. And my proposal to him was, why don't we work together and let us stay in the business and let the public service stay in where they are, and we work together as partnerships. And I had to sell this to my company as well. So this isn't something that we do as a service normally. So I started thinking about what can a company like PwC bring to a city like LA where I live? Well, we have a lot of skills around brand management, we have a lot of thought leadership, we have a lot of data, we know a lot of people, we have a strong network, we have access to capital, and we have a lot of credibility. So this is something that we took to the mayor of Los Angeles and said, we want to work with you to help accelerate the innovation and entrepreneurship in Los Angeles, and to create make Los Angeles be a hub for innovation and entrepreneurship. And what we could get out of it as a company is relevance in the market, really get some publicity, have early insights into emerging companies as we work with the environment and the market, and access to new ideas and new talent as they come up. So this was sort of my sales pitch. It wasn't that aggressive, but it was something that resonated with both the mayor and with my CEO. So we talked about what are some things that we can do together to influence the ecosystem. And I talked about this to Governor Hickenlooper too a few months ago, the narrative around the ecosystem, the brand. So creating and amplifying a brand around an ecosystem. So having the, if Silicon Valley, to your point, is known as the technology, nirvana, what is another ecosystem known for? You said earlier, Dan, that Singapore is not known for technology innovation, but for systems innovation. Israel is known for the technology advancement. Finding out what is that core competency that we can talk about and amplify. For example, in Los Angeles, we have Hollywood has been a brand that has been around for a while, but actually the content providers and the video gaming industry is making a lot more money than Hollywood is bringing in. So, identifying those companies and figuring out what is the core competency. Identifying the objectives and the challenges for that ecosystem, sort of similar to what I had to do at PwC, identifying the processes and the challenges that prevent us from being innovative and entrepreneurial. And then, messaging and measuring our activities. And these are some things that, for example, PwC or other private companies are skilled at doing. Network, we talked about that. Rob is really good about, the first exercise that we do at the end of the afternoon yesterday was really about networking, about talking about what our challenges are and what our objectives are, and then coming up with people we know, not coming up with solutions, but people we know that we can connect with each other. And I think that's a really important role that we can play in a private-public partnership. And engaging ambassadors. We talked about champions, people who can further your cause. Creating a living map of what the resources are in an environment, in an ecosystem. And of course, engaging through social media and really amplifying your presence. Capital, the big C. We can facilitate connections, again, perpetuating the network, but really influencing who has capital and bringing that capital to the market. And you having an anchor tenant, for example, in a mall is something that attracts other merchants and other stores. So transferring that kind of idea into your ecosystem of where can we get some big name companies to come in and change that ecosystem, accelerate the growth. An example that Michael gave of the SAP number 2 guy coming into Israel to do a huge Herculean effort. You saw that drove you to go there and make a change there. It drives other people to do the same. So having a big known activity that attracts a lot of attention is also very important. Comparatives. Learning from other ecosystems, just like we're doing now, learning from other cities and other areas that what they have learned, what they have tried. The governor, again, I keep going back to it because he had such a compelling talk this morning of what they've done and trying to do that in other areas and learning from that and learning from other companies, if you're really talking about entrepreneurial things, is also very important. Education. In LA, for example, we have a huge issue with training these amazing engineers and scientists out of very prominent schools, and then they all leave to go to Silicon Valley or to New York or to Seattle. And how do we keep them inside? How do we keep them local? How do you keep the talent? And it's good for us as a firm because we want the talent to be local so that we can staff our LA office with really good talent. So it's not quite transcendent, but it's win-win, I guess. So one of the things that we've done is to start an incubator on campus at UCLA that funds student ideas for businesses. And we've decided that put this hypothesis to test because we think that when students who are educated in prominent schools don't see opportunities for success in their geography, they'll leave to go to somewhere that has a better brand. But if you create an opportunity for students to create their own companies and become entrepreneurs, then you keep them in the environment, in the geography, and you perpetuate that kind of culture. So that's one of the things we're doing. And of course, working with faculty and helping them with their IP and making some investments there as well. Policy, that's a big thing that we want to work with the city to make the city more attractive for businesses. Again, Governor Hickenlooper talked about how Colorado is very pro-business. Well, I can't really say that about California. It's a tough place, but we've got great weather and really great people, and we like staying there, and we pay really dearly for that. But so we're working to come up with innovative solutions for that. Maybe making tax-free zones around, train stations where we have public transportation and we reduce commuting and using cars. At the same time, we create businesses around hubs of areas. We have a challenge that LA is very spread out, so we have 5 different downtowns, and how do we bring them together? And driving advocacy is important. I think we talked about that earlier. Having champions, having innovation czars, having people who actually can do something about a policy and work the city government. And so I got my card that my time was up. So companies, I think, can really be catalysts to accelerating growth in an environment, in an ecosystem. And I think collaboration, we've seen it be successful, but really using collaboration as a Kickstarter for something. So really collaborating with the public sector, private sector, coming together to create an ecosystem, I think is a pretty ambitious goal. And this is, again, a living case study, so hopefully next year I'll come back and tell you how well we did. And I think innovation begets innovation, and then you start seeing a self-sustaining culture emerge when you have those inputs into it and do a little bit of a synthetic input into growing a community like that. But all in all, I think it's an organic process that requires a lot of us working together to make it happen.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.